This is Calke Abbey, the unstately home as the National Trust referred to it. It was the site of a priory, not an abbey as the name suggests. The priory was founded by the second Earl of Chester sometime between 1115 and 1120. Calke eventually becomes a subordinate cell to Repton Priory. Repton Priory was dissolved in 1538, but the canons had already leased the land of Calke to John Prest, who was granted the lease for 99 years. John Prest was a member of the London Grocers Company and lived at Calke till he died in 1549. He will eventually pass through his daughter to her husband William Bradbourne. It then went through various freehold and leaseholders before being acquired by Richard Wensley in 1575. Richard Wensley built an Elizabethan house here which forms the core of the house today. Wensley sold the estate in 1585 to Robert Bainbridge, who was imprisoned in the Tower of London. He was imprisoned for refusing to accept Elizabeth I's church settlement. After Robert's death, his son sells the estate to Sir Henry Harper in 1622. Sir Henry Harper was created first baronet in 1625, and it was the fourth baronet who built the Baroque mansion we see today, which was built between 1701 to 1704. Sir Henry Harper, the seventh baronet, known as the Isolated Baronet, is an interesting character. He seems to have had no religious faith, much to his mother's horror, had he married his mistress, former lady's maid Nanny Hawkins, who brought no money into the family. Although his mother was not happy with his choice of bride, she does seem to have made an effort in getting to know her, but Sir Henry eventually broke all contact with his mother. He didn't go to house parties in London or socialise with his peers, and he preferred to keep as far away from society as possible, and this would extend to his own servants. Sir Henry transformed the gardens and had an underground tunnel put in so his gardeners could go about their business without being seen. He also often communicated with his servants through letter. Despite Sir Henry's shyness, he still tried to get himself a peerage and changed his name to Crewe in the hopes of getting the dormant title Baron of Crewe of Steyne, which his great-great-grandmother had been a co-heiress of. In Derbyshire, the Harpers were second only to the Cavendishes in terms of wealth and acreage, but they were dukes, so perhaps Sir Henry felt he should have a title also. But unfortunately, this never happened. There's the library there. There are maps that cover the books as well in this room. This room was the officers' mess during the war. Sir Vaughancy Harper Crewe, the 10th baronet, was another interesting character. He was obsessed with birds and collected huge collections of stuffed birds and other animals as well. Like Sir Henry, he too often communicated to his servants via letter, and one area that seems to have caused particular trouble was the management of fires. He wanted them always kept at an even temperature in order to maintain his stuffed bird collection. If a fire was too hot or not hot enough, it could result in the sacking of the offender. However, he hardly knew his servants, and some servants could survive a number of sackings. One day, Sir Vaughancy was butterfly collecting with his gamekeeper Peg at Repton Park, which was a small country house on the estate, which was lived in by his cousin. Sir Vaughancy wasn't on good terms with his cousin, and when he saw him on his lawn with his butterfly nets, it led to an argument. Sir Vaughancy went back home angry and called his agent and ordered him to pull the house down. Within a week the house was demolished and the cousin had to find somewhere else to live. He also fell out with one of his daughters, whom he caught smoking in her room, and threw her out, and she was never allowed back to court during her father's lifetime. He and his wife also lived separate lives, and while she was entertaining, he would go off into the woods, and have his coachman inform him when the guests left, and then he would return home. This is the cellars down here. And this is the brew tunnel, which actually leaves the brew house right at the far end. and we think beer was piped down into the cellars from this area. After Sir Vaughan's death, his eldest daughter Hilda inherited the estate with her husband Godfrey Moseley, and they sold half of her father's stuffed animal collection and some valuable books to help pay the death duties. The estate passed in 1949 to Charles Jenny, Hilda's nephew, who changed his name to Harper Crewe in 1961. Charles lived in almost total seclusion and died in 1981 while setting mole traps in the park. The estate passed to his younger brother Henry, who transferred the estate to the National Trust in 1985. Today the National Trust works hard to keep the house looking like it did at the time they took it over, leaving the paint peeling off the walls and the courtyards overgrown. It's a perfect example of the decline of the country house. So these would have been the old stable yards. You can see they're quite overgrown. Some wildflowers growing here in the garden. This is the orangery, built in 1777, and it's the oldest building in the garden at Calke. Yeah, you see like a wall garden here. Some more of the wildflowers growing. So we'll continue with a tour around the garden now. Some more of the wildflowers growing. And this is the tunnel the gardeners would have used to avoid being seen. The old water pump. And these are some of the gardener's workshops, so you'd have found plant pots and various things in these rooms. And really from about 1773 into the outbreak of the Second War, the garden produced enough fruit and vegetables for the Harper Crewe family. This is the tunnel that the gardeners would have used again. There are two species of deer in the park, the red deer and the fallow deer. This is the grotto. This is St Giles Church at Calke. Now we think there's a church on the site from about 1129, although what we see today is mainly the result of building work between 1827 to 1829, restorations by George Crewe. We also have some of the family buried here as well. So we should take a look inside now. We've got memorials for various members of the family. You know, there's a stained glass window at the end there. There's Vaughan C. Harper's Crewe's memorial. And there's a coat of arms there. One of the older memorials there. Fantastic stained glass window at the end. And looking back towards the organ at the top there.